100 years ago, around 2% of the population got less than 6 hours of sleep. Today, that is 30%. That is a 15 times increase, which shows us the direction that we're going in terms of our sleep hygiene and our sleep health. If you get less than 5 hours of sleep on average per night, you're at a much higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease, diabetes, as well as a higher risk of an early death. If you deprive rats from REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep, which is a central portion of sleep that we get every night, they will die almost as quickly as if you will deprive them from food. So I've spent the last few weeks researching sleep, as well as reading a great book by Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep, which I would highly recommend. I'll put a link in the description below. And so in this video, I'm going to go through my top 8 tips on how to get better quality sleep, as well as helping you to get to sleep quicker. Let's begin. It is recommended that we get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every night, and there is strong research to show negative health impacts on getting less than 6 hours of sleep every night. So if you can implement these 8 things that I'm about to go through, I can guarantee you're going to get much better quality sleep, and you should be able to get to sleep much quicker. So my first thing that I'll recommend is to get a consistent wake up time and a consistent going to bed time. By doing this, you're going to teach your sleep cycle when you want to go to bed and when you want to get up in the morning. If this varies significantly, then you're going to confuse your body, and it's not going to know when to go to bed and when to wake up, which basically means that when you want to go to bed, it's not necessarily when your body is ready to go to bed. So by going to bed consistently and waking up consistently, you can then sync these two together and making it easier to go to bed and then to get up in the morning. Number 2 is to eliminate light before you go to bed, particularly the last 2 or 3 hours. And particularly blue light. Blue light inhibits melatonin in the body, which is the hormone you need to feel sleepy and to be able to go to bed. If we go back before we had artificial lighting, we would tend to go to bed when the sun went down, and we'll get up in the morning when the sun came up. So our bodies are very used to being synced up with the natural light outside. And so then the body knows when it's day and when it's night, and that's very important. When artificial light came in, we started to confuse our body, and so this blue light has an effect on the sleep hormones, particularly melatonin, which can then confuse the body if there is a lot of blue light before you go to bed, because it's essentially saying, oh, it's still day, so therefore I'm going to stay up, and therefore making it harder for you to go to bed. So make sure you eliminate blue light. On most devices these days, you can set your phone light to be more red just before you go to bed, which will certainly help, but even better is to take screens away completely for the last hour or so before you go to bed. So that's phones, screens, TVs, anything like that. Number 3 is to put your phone on airplane mode when you go to bed. You do not want the radiation that comes from your phone, from the 4G and the 5G and the Wi-Fi signals and the Bluetooth signals when you're sleeping. Even better, you can keep your phone outside the room, and that will do 2 things. Firstly, it will ensure that you're not looking at your phone before you go to bed, and therefore not getting that blue light, inhibiting your melatonin production, as well as ensuring that you don't get the radiation that comes from your phone when you're sleeping. So keeping it outside the room can be actually a very effective way if you're struggling particularly to sleep. Number 4 is to create a low temperature wherever you're sleeping. When we go to sleep, our bodies will slightly lower their temperature, and so if we have an environment that has a high temperature, it's going to make it much harder for our body to get into the state that it needs to be able to sleep. Number 5 is to exercise throughout the day. Exercise has a huge health impact for many different areas within your life, but it also impacts sleep, and the more that you can exercise in the day, the better you're going to find it to go to sleep in the evening. Just make sure that you don't exercise 2 or 3 hours before bed, because exercising is essentially going to increase your core temperature and therefore making it harder for you to sleep if that temperature is still raised when you're trying to go to sleep. So make sure it's earlier on in the day, in the morning or in the afternoon. Number 6 is to avoid alcohol before going to bed. Although alcohol can sometimes make it easier for you to fall asleep, it will typically give you a lesser quality of sleep. Alcohol is what we call a sedative. It's essentially going to knock out your cortex as opposed to giving you a quality sleep. And so it gives you a less quality of sleep by disrupting your sleep throughout the night, meaning that you wake up more consistently, even though you will probably not remember these wake-ups. Alcohol will also inhibit REM sleep, which is a very important part of our sleep. So you get less REM sleep, which gives you less quality of sleep as well. Number 6 is to avoid coffee before bed. I think that's usually the more obvious one. Coffee has a half-life of around 6 hours, which basically means it's going to take around 12 hours for it to leave your system, or for the caffeine to get back to the level it should be before you go to bed. And so my suggestion is to only have coffee in the morning. You might be one of those people that can drink coffee before bed and actually sleep absolutely fine. The problem is, although you get to sleep very easily, you tend to have a less quality of sleep in a similar way that you do with alcohol. Caffeine works in the body by blocking the chemical called adenosine. Adenosine is the chemical that will build up in your brain the more that you're awake, and essentially give you that sleepy feel. So the more adenosine you have in your brain, the more tired and sleepy you're going to feel, and therefore the easier it is for you to go to bed or get to sleep. Caffeine will work by blocking that, meaning that you have less adenosine build up, which makes you feel like you got more energy, which is exactly why you don't want to be drinking this before bed, because it's essentially going to either make it harder for you to go to bed or also give you that worse quality of sleep. Number 8 is to avoid food before bed, particularly spicy and citrus foods. If you're eating a lot of food before bed, your body's going to be busy trying to digest that food instead of going to bed, so it can inhibit or interfere with your actual sleep. So make sure you're eating a good few hours before you're trying to go to bed. The last thing I want to go through is the snooze button. A lot of people I know will set a load of different alarms in the morning to try and get up. Every time your alarm goes off, it essentially gives you a stressful event. It puts you in a temporary sympathetic drive where your heart rate will temporarily go up, your breathing rate will go up, your blood pressure will go up, as well as various stress hormones being released into the body. Now that happens very quickly, and if your alarm goes off once, that's not such a big deal. If your alarm is going off 4, 5, 6 times in the morning, you're essentially giving yourself 4, 5, 6 different stressful events in the morning, which doesn't give you that nice feel, but also it puts the stress on your cardiovascular system. So research tends to point towards not doing that. But also when those alarms going off, if it's half an hour or an hour, during that time, you're not going to be getting the best quality of sleep, which basically means you're going to be more sleepy throughout the day and less well rested. Lastly then, if you're suffering with sleep, one mineral that I would recommend trying will be magnesium. Magnesium is a mineral that so many of us are deficient in. It's not stored in our body for very long, and we don't tend to get enough of it in the West. Around 50% of us tend to be deficient. But one of the things that I hear mostly from people that take magnesium, and I think I find this myself as well, is that you tend to get better quality of sleep and you tend to get to sleep quicker. So it's very effective for sleep. It has many different roles within the body, but one of them is going to be sleep. So if you do suffer with sleep, then I would suggest trying this. I'll put a link in the description on the type of magnesium that I recommend. You can also see my video as well that I did previously on magnesium to get more information on that. Thank you again for watching. If you are new here to this channel, then please do consider subscribing, as I do new videos like this at the moment twice a week, and do remember to hit that notification bell so you know that when my videos are coming out. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one.